And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, I'm Tom Vasel. Today we're taking a look at an expansion for Vikings Gone Wild called Master of Elements. Now this may surprise you, but this expansion has elemental stuff in it. Aha! It also lets you have the chance to become Loki and Thor and all that stuff, so that's a lot of fun. Let's show you what this expansion adds to the game. Alright, so let's talk about what's different in this expansion. First of all, you're going to replace all the attack and defense cards with these Fire Spirits, Hellhounds, Water Spirits, Tritons, Forest Spirits, Tree Ants. You also have a few new heroes, and we'll talk about stuff later. But before we talk about anything else, we need to talk about the new player boards everybody has. Everyone gets one of these player boards, and if you're playing the generic boring way, you can give everyone a Master of Elements. We're not going to talk about that because that's boring. Instead, you can give everyone a God card, and you pick, this is like a way to randomize them. Once you get it, you're going to get 3 cards for that God level. 1, 2, or 3, Loki, Diverger, Alvis, Valkyrie, etc. Again, you can play with the Master of Elements cards, to the same thing, but they're just generic. Now, what do these cards let you do? Well, first of all, when you pick these God cards, you're going to put them here from level 1 to 3, and then you're going to draft some artifact cards. So we have Nature Orb, and Fire Orb, and Tyr's Shield, and Logan's Axe, and some, you might have seen some of this stuff before. You're going to draft these till each player has 3 of them. So let's say, for example, I have the Nature Orb. I'm also going to take this bowl here, Odrandor, and the Apple. Those might be the 3 that I pick. Now, I'm going to, let's say I take Loki. Now, at the beginning of every round, a new thing is added. Each of these gods, whether it's these guys or the Master of Element guys, is going to produce one of the 3 element tokens. You can do fire, water, or earth. So you pick one of the different tokens, and you're going to put that on one of the buildings that you have. So at the beginning, it will start on your main building, but as you build buildings, you have the opportunity to put more of them out. You can switch one that you already have. So maybe I don't want this to be fire anymore. Maybe I want it to be water. But the more buildings you have, the more elements you can control. You then can use your artifacts each turn. So this one, for example, lets me, I can pay 1 beer to get a one-time use earth token. This one here lets me use a water token to get beer. Well, that's pretty useful. This one lets me use 2 water to discard a card, then draw a card. I can use all the level 1s, but if I upgrade Loki to level 2, he needs to drink a lot of beer. Get 4 beer, he upgrades. Then I can use the level 1s and the level 2s. And if I upgrade him to level 3, I can use level 1, 2s, or 3s on each artifact. And he gets a special ability. And he produces 2 tokens each turn instead of 1. And I get 5 points. You can see the level 3s are much better. Here I pay 3 water tokens and 1 earth token. By the way, you pay them by flipping them over. And at the beginning of every turn, they flip back over. And I can get 2 barrels that I can store for the future. Here I can pay 1 beer and 2 gold and take 3 earth tokens. Here I can pay 5 water and pick 2 unit cards from my discard pile and put them in my hand. That's awesome. These are really cool. You can also, everyone can use these abilities here at the bottom, where I can spend a water and earth to get a beer, or a fire and earth to get gold. So this is going to make the game faster. In fact, they recommend that perhaps when you're playing with this, you might consider going to 40 points rather than 30, because the game is going to go faster. There's more ways to get points. You also want to use these tokens to get these new units here. So instead of attack and defense units, you have units that are both. So like, for example, the Fire Spirit is 2 attack or plus 1 defense. I can destroy this card to add 4 attack to another unit. While the bigger Hellhound here is 4 attack or 1 defense. Or if I use a fire, I can destroy a card in my hand. A nice way to color your deck. Here a Water Spirit is plus 1 attack or plus 1 defense. And I can pay 3 water to draw a card, 2 attack or 2 defense, pay 3 water to pick a unit card from a discard pile and put it in my hand. Forest Spirit, 1 attack or 2 defense, the best defense of the small ones. And I can add 1 attack to each unit for each one of these that I spend. And then the Tree Ant, which is the most powerful one, 6 attack, and he gives you a green token if you need to use it for any reason, which might be if you have a Forest Spirit in your hand. Of course, the game also comes with other cards that you can stick in, like this Gold Mine Expert gives you a 1 for each building of the same element you own. We have a Warrior Aura here, a Salamander, a Dryad, an Isonade. water amulet, fire amulet, nature amulet, salamander. So we have different units that you'll be able to pick up from there too that have to do with these different tokens. So that's basically it, but I did mention that these gods, when they get to level 3, they get a new special power, and these powers are pretty cool. Like Loki here, for example, he can steal a beer or a gold from any player. Well, that's pretty cool. You know, that seems kind of like Loki's style thing. Diverger here produces 2 beer every turn. Well, I like that if you want beer. This guy draws an extra card every turn. She can keep a card from one turn to the next. She can copy and pay for any artifact effect in play. So she's using other people's artifacts. Grendel gets +2 defense each round. You can store 2 elemental tokens on Ragnar, and Thor changes your boring old Viking warriors to a strength of 4. So you have these extra special abilities, and you'll have 3 different artifacts that you can use each battle. The game also comes with some other stuff here. We have some new heroes, the Kraken, Nidhogg, Logi, this horse, Jord, the Leviathan. So some really cool things. And again, these also work with the elements in here. And then we have some more goals that players are going for, the most treants, and then lots of different missions. Lots of these missions that have to do exactly with here. Buy a fire unit, buy a water unit, use your transmutation capacity, this thing here once, things like that. So all these cards basically have to do with the elements. The expansion is basically just one thing, adding it to the game. That's how it works. All right, this is easily my favorite expansion they've done so far. It's also the biggest one. This is, I think, the 4th expansion I've looked at. There was one that turned into a cooperative game. There's one that turned into an alliance game. There's one that turned it added magic. Now, I have not messed with these other expansions and mixing them with this one. This one fits in with the base set. That's what I played it with, and it works really well. To the point where I'm tempted to always use this. It's really fun to have those artifacts. It's really fun to have a god. It gives you another goal. Like, do I want to upgrade my town hall? Do I want to build more buildings? Do I want to go for points? Or do I want to upgrade the god character I have? I like that. And it adds a lot of fun to the game. There is a little bit of weird thematic stuff, like when you are getting the heroes, when Thor shows up and I'm Loki, so I take Thor. So we're not sure how to talk about that. Like Thor's in my deck, so I just call him a fake Thor or whatever. Or if you are Thor and you take the Thor card, you are Thor controlling Thor. That's not a big deal, but it did make us chuckle a bit when we played. But this game brings in the elements, and it gives you some extra resources. We already have the beer and the gold, right? And now we have the elemental tokens. And that kind of works. You're not spending them, they're on your buildings. It definitely encourages you to build more buildings. That's something I like a lot, because the more buildings you have, they give you special benefits anyway, but this kind of focuses you to build these buildings as quickly as you can, and then you are able to put the tokens on them and flip them over and use them for various things, which makes this very beginning of the game, this artifact draft, really important. I really like that whole idea there. I like that I have a special ability no one has, but I need to upgrade my god as much as I can, and for that I need to get beer, but maybe I should be concentrating on gold and getting my town hall up, because there's a lot of attacking. In the base game, the defensive cards aren't bought that much. They really aren't. Sure, you get points when you successfully defend against someone and you stop them from getting points. That's great. But it's usually better to go for attacking. This expansion acknowledges that, gets rid of the defensive cards, puts defensive stuff on your attack cards, allowing you to use them for attack or defense, and I like that combo, and that you're never quite sure what anyone has in their hand, because all the cards that they have in their hand could be defensive cards. And so this is a good, solid expansion. This game has come out, I think, 2 years ago now. I've enjoyed it each year. I thought the other expansions were great, but this one is the best one. And like I said, I would play this one even with people who've never played before. I made fun of the Master of Elements, generic things. You can still use those if you want, but it's much more fun to be Loki or Thor or Valkyrie or whatever and use them. So I'll probably never use the Master of Elements stuff, but it's there if you want to. So more good stuff. I can't really speak to how well this combines with other expansions. My suspicion is it really doesn't fit that well with them. You should play it by itself. But so far, easily my favorite expansion, Master of Elements. Dice Tower Judgment, excellent!